Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called The Council's Guardian, written by JDM5544. Never before in my life did I fear humanity. They were the well-known allies of the Council who advanced faster than any other species, the great developers of the slip drive without originator ruins, the ones who founded the Council. Oh, they had their quirks. They ate flesh, for example, the only known spacefaring creature to do so. They noticed differences in themselves that were so very minute they didn't even appear in their genetic code. They were so very advanced and kind. Yet they warned about themselves, spoke of themselves as evil and attempting to repent. Their greatest religion spoke of them as inherently evil. I believed in the majority opinion of the Council that humanity was simply a humble species. But they never agreed to this, always refusing to join the Council they had helped to form when we were but a few small squabbling worlds with no species holding more than 5 planets. They came to us then, showed us we were all more alike than not, and formed us into the mighty council that we are today. Our herd stampedes over all others we have met, and today we hold over 60 species in the council. Even in this, the humans showed their wisdom, refusing to join us in war, and instead spoke on our behalf to the enemy herds and convinced them to join us. Always they are asked why, and always they respond, so if we ever stray, we may be stopped. Stopped from what? They never say. Indeed, they hold their secrets well, for no other species has been to their home system. They always refused invitation to others as well. We knew not why, and thought it a peculiar human custom, one of their many peculiarities. With the human aid, we had become herd brothers with our lost neighbors 200 galactic cycles ago, and alongside them, we had never been greater. Yet a cycle ago, we encountered a fleeing herd. They spoke of a threat that had taken half the arm, destroying everything in their way that marched ever closer, reveling in the destruction. The fleeing herd requested protection in exchange for all of their information on this enemy, and we, of course, agreed. Upon inspection of their information, we realized they were very close to the one of the Durnok colonies. The Durnok requested an elitist task force to be sent to defend their world, and my people agreed, for we were the greatest warriors in the Council. We were the ones who ruled 5 systems before the Council, when most ruled 2. We were undoubtedly the galaxy's greatest military. Or so we thought. The battle was lost after it had barely begun. As we fled, the images of what the enemy was doing to the Dornak colony was sickening. They butchered the citizens, bombed the cities, did unspeakable things to the children. Whatever these beings called this, we had no word for it. This was not what we called war. When we returned to the Council with our report, their reaction was one of terror. They had bested the Elentisk, the greatest of our warriors. How could we hope to stop them? Then the human ambassador spoke. He spoke with great sadness in his voice, of the lives lost and our inability to fight on the oncoming threat. He spoke with the deepest anger I had ever heard at the actions taken by the enemy. The human ambassador recommended that we retreat to the human home system, where they would protect the Council and promise to defeat this enemy. His voice filled with sorrow as he said it was time for us to learn humanity's secret. We were baffled. How did the humans plan to stop the enemy? What secret did he speak of? And most of all, why? After hundreds of cycles, were they inviting us to their home system? The ambassador refused to answer these questions, saying that they would all be answered in their home system and that the human battle fleet had already been deployed. So the Council went to the humans' home system, still fearful of the threat posed by the enemy, but we all felt a little safer, knowing humanity was dealing with the problem. When we made it to the system, we were awed by it. Every major body in the system of sufficient mass had something on it. All of the moons, many of the asteroids, and artificial stations were everywhere. Finally, we touched down on the third planet from the sun, and it was a green and blue jewel. Massive oceans covered over 80% of the surface, and the air was perfectly clean. So we did feast that night. The human leaders welcomed us with open arms, and the night was alive with revelry. Yet, I could not shake the feeling that the humans had an aura of sadness, and even fear about them. I thought perhaps they feared for their battle fleet. As the night came to a close, the human leader said that we would conduct our business tomorrow, and so we all rested through the night. In the morning, the humans took us all upon a ship, and as they ascended, the human leader told us a story. The story was of a species so cruel it murdered each other over petty differences, of a creature so unevolved it could feel nothing at the death of another. We were horrified, but not surprised at the extent of the humans' knowledge of our enemy, until the human leader simply shook his head and said while they knew much of their enemy, this was not their history. He continued to speak of the species and told how they advanced so far so quickly due solely to war. He spoke of how they had fought the worst war in their history at the time, and yet short time later fought an even worse one, killing millions between the two. And after the second war, a small seed of wisdom grew, and wars, for the first time in their history, became smaller. In time, these people explored their system and slowly spread out, colonizing the entire system. Yet, in time, the terror of war faded from memory for these people, and they fought and clashed after having barely established any colonies outside of their home system. This was their worst war. This war made even their two greatest wars before this look like mere skirmishes. This war claimed the lives of billions, and even destroyed their home system's innermost planet. In time, it destroyed their home world. As we began to descend into the second planet, a vicious radioactive greenhouse planet, as there are all around the galaxy, I cannot help but feel disturbed at the story and confused what it was to do with our enemy. Yet the human leader continues on, telling of how shortly after this horrifying war, the species stumbled upon a set of small empires of a few intelligent species. They squabbled amongst themselves over who was the strongest and who owned what, but never fought war as they did. Though war and its terrors were fresh in their minds, they feared that future generations would forget, and wanted a force that could and would crush them entirely when it found out they stepped out of line. But such a force could not fall victim to the same fate as themselves if they were to do this. So the species determined that these small empires would become a peaceful union of equals, a council that would welcome all, and they would be its guardians. They would watch its horizons and ensure no threat would topple it. They would guard its people against their own weaknesses so that it would not collapse from within. And if it ever faced a threat, they could destroy it utterly. Then only then, would they reveal what they truly were to these younger species. For then, they would have seen monsters to match them. This story was beginning to strike a chord in my memory when we stopped descending. The human leaders looked towards the windows which had its sun shields up. He then said in the most solemn voice, "We are on the species' home planet. They promised to guide the council to greatness as far as they could, and we believe that we had succeeded in that regard." And the sun shield began to rise outside the windows. We saw a statue of a human. It was a female holding a tablet of some sort in one hand and what appeared to be a torch in the other, with what appeared to be the ruins of the once great city behind her. It was an impressive monument, yet still I did not make the connection the human had placed right before my very eyes. A warning bell rang. Enemy ships had entered the system. The ship ascended quickly, far faster than it had descended, and was soon in space once more, and saw the enemy ships. Where before, when fleeing from the Dornock system, I saw thousands of enemy ships. Here, I saw less than a dozen. I thought that surely this meant the humans had been defeated and the enemy had split its forces. I thought in that moment I felt fear, but truly, he was yet to come. The human leader said simply, "A message comes for the council, for we have told them we are your servants. We have guided you and guarded you for generations. Now is the day when you know the truth and face your destiny on your own." On the screen, the enemy appeared. He looked at us, and I feared a statement of gloating, a declaration of victory. For how could the humans, as great and as peaceful as they are, have bested this enemy? Yet when the enemy spoke, it chilled me to my core. "We beg the council's forgiveness and protection. Your mercy is the only hope for our people. The humans are destroying the rest of us, and we cannot stop them." End of story. I would just like to thank the T5 supporters: Bushmaster 117, Casper Arnholtz, Draxoon WRE, Elijah Silvercross, Gray, John Carrington, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.